So if you never heard about H2, so let me just zoom in so you can see everything. So H2 is a relational database written in Java, and basically it's a very light database, and we can configure it to run as an in-memory database, as we're going to do in this course. So let's go ahead and open up IntelliJ, and to install H2, open up the pom.xml, and inside let's add yet another dependency, and here let's say dependency, and right here we're going to say h and then 2. So that's the artifact ID, and then the group will come from com.h2 and then database. And then finally, let's say that we want to define the scope for this, and this will be at runtime. Now, if this is red for you, you know what to do already. So right click. So my one is not auto importing the dependencies when I add them, so I just have to reload the project. So this should go and fetch the dependency. So you can see resolving Maven dependencies, and you can see we now have H2 installed. Now let's go ahead and open up application.properties. So this is how we configure this database. And for this, what I'm going to do is actually paste some configuration, and you can grab all of this from the description of this video. So let me explain this. So here we have the URL, and this is JDBC and then H2 for the database. And then here we are telling that this will be an in-memory database. We can also configure this so that we persist the data to our file system. And then here, this is the name of our database, testdb. Then we also have the driver class, so org.h2 and then driver. If you're using Postgres, then this will be different. We have username and password right here. And then here we have the dialect. So the dialect for our JPA database will be H2. If you're using Postgres or MySQL, then you change those according to those databases. I'm also saying that I want to show the SQL right here, and you'll see this in a second. And then we have the console enabled. Remember, I said that we have a console that we can interact with our database. So we have that enabled, and then the path to access the console is H2. And the final thing that we're going to do here is to add Spring Data JPA. So open up pom.xml, and then after the so right here, so after the H2, or it doesn't really matter where you add these dependencies. So after H2, go ahead and say dependency. So dependency, and then this will be Spring and then boot dash and then starter data and then dash JPA, and this should come from org. So org and then Spring Boot, and you can see that that has been resolved. And if it doesn't resolve for you, right click on your pom.xml Maven reload project, and that should pick up the changes. Now this is pretty much everything that we have to do. So we actually configured Spring Data JPA. So we've configured Spring Data JPA and the H2 database as well with all of these properties. So if I go back in here, so you can see that these right here, so let me just organize these. So these are Spring Data Source specific, this is Data JPA specific, and then this is H2 to enable the console. And then we have these two dependencies, so H2 and then Spring Boot Starter Data JPA. So now that we have these two dependencies and everything set up, next let me go ahead and show you how to access the console where we can interact with our database.